Hi, it's Lilybet here. Thanks for watching another video. Today I want to talk a little bit more about something I've been thinking about a lot in the past couple of years. If you ask a lot of artists today why they make art, you'll hear things like it's for self-expression, it's to process emotions, or maybe to build a brand. And these things aren't exactly wrong, but in my personal opinion, I think they're quite small if they stand on their own. These reasons should be a part of the pie, but not the main driver of why we create. Because for most of human history, artists weren't primarily making work about themselves. They were making work about something much larger than themselves, whatever that may have been. They knew it, and the work shows it. Somewhere between then and now, I think we've lost that thread a little bit, and I think it's worth picking it up again. I've been painting for years, working a day job and painting whenever possible. Just thinking to myself why painting and creativity really mattered. Does it even matter? It can honestly seem a little self-indulgent at times. And the honest answer I kept coming back to was, yeah, it does matter. But not for the reasons the art world tends to give you. Not because of self-expression or market value or critical reception. It matters because of something older and heavier than any of that. So let me take you back for a minute. Walk into the Sistine Chapel and look up. Michelangelo spent 4 years lying on his back on scaffolding, painting that ceiling. He was in a physical agony for most of it. He had neck pain and paint dripping into his eyes, arguing constantly with the Pope, who kept coming in to check on progress and demanding it be finished faster. In one of their arguments, the Pope even threatened to throw him off the scaffolding if he didn't finish the work. It's said that Michelangelo didn't even want the commission and that he felt forced into it. He could have painted something competent, something that would satisfy the commission and get him paid, but instead, he painted something that has stopped people cold for hundreds of years. Why? Why did he do that? Well, I think because Michelangelo understood something very important. He wasn't decorating a ceiling, he was participating in something sacred. The work wasn't about him, it was about making visible something that exists beyond what human eyes can normally see. In some letters addressed to his nephew, we can learn more about his convictions to push humanity forward in this way. And that's a completely different motivation for making art. It produces a completely different end result. Vermeer is another one. He paints mostly small domestic scenes, a woman reading a letter, a girl with a pearl earring, light falling across a tiled floor, nothing grand or epic, but there's something in Vermeer's light that is unlike anyone else's. It's not just technically brilliant, it's devotional. There's a reverence that is shown towards the subject. He painted ordinary moments as if they were sacred, as if the light coming through that window was worth treating with the same reverence as a cathedral ceiling. Then we can look at Caspar David Friedrich, the great German romantic painter. His figures always face away from us, looking out at vast landscapes, mountains, fog, the sea at night. The human figure is usually tiny against the immensity of the world around him. He said himself that the artist's feeling is his law, but what Friedrich was feeling and what his paintings transmitted was not just emotion, it was awe. That very specific quality of being very small before something enormous and true. Every one of his paintings is asking the same question: what lies beyond what we can see? Then we can look at someone like Makoto Fujimura, a contemporary artist, one of my favorites. He's working right now and he paints a Japanese technique called Nihonga using ground minerals and gold. His work is slow, it's layered, it's liturgical. He talks openly about beauty as a form of grace, about art as an act of cultural renewal. He uses the phrase kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold, as a metaphor of what art can do in a fractured world. These artists across completely different eras, different cultures, different faiths, they're all pulling on the same thread, that thread we were talking about in our last video. Art as something that points beyond itself, beauty as something that arrives from somewhere else. The artist as someone with a responsibility, not just a skill set. Of course, I understand that there is a need to put food on the table and a huge pull for artists to make work that sells, to paint what people want to hang above their sofas, to sand down the symbolic edges, so to speak, and make something more comfortable and commercial. I've done it. Of course I have. And I always end up hating those artworks, not just aesthetically, but something in it goes really flat and the life is taken out of creating that piece, which shows in the end result. It's almost like the work even knows deep down that it's not been made in honesty or truth. There are artists today that make art on a large scale, kind of like conveyor belts. Sometimes without even touching the work themselves. They have other people doing it for them. And that's cool if it works for them, but I don't want that. I certainly wouldn't buy something like that. It might have an economical value, but the moral value isn't there at all. The artists who I believe carry real impact are the ones who are asking what is true, what is worth making, what deserves to exist. That's the question I'm trying to keep asking, even when it's inconvenient or costly. There's an old idea that icons, those gold-leaf Byzantine paintings of the saints, weren't considered to be made by the artist alone. The painter was understood as a conduit. The image was considered to already exist in some spiritual sense. The artist's job was simply to let it through. Michael Jackson actually spoke a lot about this, especially when it came to his rivalry with Prince. He believed that creatively good ideas were downloads from the ether, the universe, whatever he wanted to call it. And he was terrified that if he didn't immediately act on that inspired melody or lyrics, that the idea would be given to someone else who was open to receiving it and to carry out the creativity within the idea. So whether you take that literally or not, I find something in that framing that feels true to the best moments in the studio. The moments when a painting suddenly does something you didn't even plan, when it becomes more than what you intended. Those moments feel less like invention and more like a discovery. I think that's the highest form of creating. I hope you've enjoyed my rant, and I hope to make many more rants like this. So if this is a subject you're interested in, please subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.